is with every single lecture, is every single problem faced when we are in university. So you see people who have come to the science of navigate university life in such a way that not only will you achieve what you're supposed to achieve in the worldly aspects, you will also get the word from the loss of time and what's happening. So when you ask me, when you pray about it, and you pray share, but actually will not forget your child, the guidance towards us in God. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue to guide them and bring them sources for guidance for Muslims. All we are going to be looking at in this one inshallah is understanding and avoiding extremism. We want to know what is extremism, why we need to talk about extremism, and what is wasatiyya, stay in the middle, that is, stay where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to stay. How do we understand what a Muslim is going to the extremes? How do we know that at this point in time I have gotten to the extremes? So inshallah, we're going to be looking at wasatiyya itself. And what's the meaning of wasatiyya? We look at extremism, the causes, types, and most importantly, the solution. So inshallah, it's simple. In such a way that if you do not even write anything, you will be able to reform some important aspects inshallah. The first thing I'm going to be looking at is wasatiyya to Islam. And I'm starting with this because if I do not get to the concept of extremism, if I stop at wasatiyya, I believe it is sufficient for us. If I stop at what? At wasatiyya, sufficient for us not to go to the extremism. You see, Islam is a religion that teaches staying in the middle, not going to any extreme. We find out that when we see extremes, there are always two extremes. In the big Iran, we find out that there's an extreme side here and there's an extreme side here. That's how we teach Islam. The first extreme side, which most of you might not know, is what we call in Arabic, we can call it act of faith. That is not doing as much as needed. That is the extreme side, not doing the talking about it. It mentions that Shaitan has windows for actually every one of us. Shaitan does not have just one methodology to patch everyone. He has different windows. So he looks at one individual and looks at him, where can I get this person? And he looks at another person, where can I get him? So one of the windows of Shaitan is at the foot. Making a person not doing as expected in the religion, which he will say, which he achieve. We're not talking about this today, even though it's an extreme. The other extreme is going beyond the bounds. As going beyond the bounds that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has permitted. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has permitted. So you find that Islam is a religion of point the viewpoint. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the six. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. And this is something we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At least how many times per day? 17 times. Allah says, in the right part here, we bring the words loss of people. That is staying with the point. Why? Because immediately after that, Allah says, He mentions two other parts. I don't know what's going on. Immediately after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions Islam, he now mentions what? Two parts. The parts of the Christians and the parts of what? Of Jews. And the idea is extremism. From the beginning to the end, how do you understand this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about that. One surah in the south, the other one surah in the night. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قل يا أهل الكتاب لا تغلوا قل يا أهل الكتاب لا تغلوا في دينكم. All people who do not go to the extremes in your religion. Now, Allah did not direct this to us because we're not people of what? Extremes. We don't go to the extremes, but people want law and steps. So he directed it to them and saying that all people do not go to what? To the extremes. What's the extremes of the extremes? I'm not of the Christians. Even though in the two verses, Allah was actually talking to the Christians. And you look at their own extreme actions, their own extreme beliefs. I think to a large extent, it's what's affecting many of us Muslims. It's last mentioned in the first letter. Because we do not understand the concept of harmful conception. It went as far as saying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a son. How does it? As an extreme. Allah says, what do you know who you are in? What do you know who you are in? As far as mentioned by the Jews, and one, they understand the truth. They know the truth. And it's very not what? From forwards and extreme. And then who are the Christians? Although scholars mentioned that what they love Allah, they want to worship Allah, but they worship with what? Ignorance. They do not understand how to worship Allah. So from this point, we find out that what, as in all things that they is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to us. In another ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions to us, it says, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. You are being output and classified. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كُنتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ. Allah says, you are the best ummah. You are the best ones that Allah has created for people. Why? You command once, good, and you forbid from once, evil, or something evil. Now, what's the extreme? We understand the extreme of the Quran. Allah says, وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ عَلَىٰ لِسَانِ دَاوُودَ. Why I want to use this? كانوا Look at what Allah used to describe themselves. يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. They command good. وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ. And they forbid evil. How do you describe these things? How do you describe them? It says that they are the Christians and Jews. It says that there are people who do not mutually forbid themselves from doing what is right, or do not stay from doing what is wrong. What do they do? They actually go and do it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also referring, making us understand the fact that Islam is a religion of rights and wasn't. And the last thing, Allah says, we have made you once a ummah of a beautiful life. We don't put the extremes in any situation, whether it is at the front or at the front. Now, to understand this, we need to bring a very important principle that Islam teaches, and that is our religion is simple, it's easy. Islam is built on what is. Allah has decided that this religion, even though there's something about that if Allah asks us to do things that may seem difficult, but actually the end just what is. When he was talking about Abu he mentioned a whole lot of things. Now the mind quickly goes to these things are difficult. The other mentions there and says that what it does not want. It does not want how to mention Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to read why you read Allah يجعل عليكم حرج. What Allah has commanded, it is not his wish to make things difficult for you in your religion. So what we have commanded you to do is actually what's easy things. Do you understand this? Allah was talking about Ramadan, when we fast 29 of that days, from dusk to dawn to dusk. No food, no drink, or what you eat. And Allah says, you need to now be open with this small. For Allah, you need to be open as what if you wanted, if you want it for you? You're very nice. No, what do you want to do? Look at how we move from the families before you got ease. After a bunch of school, there's no easy again. Now go to your house. Our system. So the religion is what? Use of one word. Ease. Ease to be easy. Look at when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Bible sends the companions to a new place for to teach them religion. We will continuously tell them that in Medina, Yusuf. The religion is what? Is easy. Which means that the whole basis of Islam is that what everything should be what? Easy. Even though we have to wake up early in the morning to pray. The whole concept of Islam is what is. That's what the scholar says. وكل ما شق فعنه الوفاء. لعسر فالدين لطف فالدين يسر الوفاء. He was mentioning issues related to Najasa. How we remove Najasa from our clothes, from our bodies, and from what we do. And then he mentioned a very important aspect where a woman, one of the companions, came to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and was asking the Prophet how would she take care of her clothes after her height is done. So the Prophet explained to us sallallahu alaihi wasallam, wash it, after washing it, you squeeze it and then spread it. And she asked an important question. She said, what if the blood remains? I can still see the blood. I can still see it even though I've washed it. Only Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not for the blood what won't affect you. Now this scholar was mentioning a very important thing about ease in the view. This is when it comes to Najasa, the smell, the taste, the color. If you have tried your best to remove it and it still remains, the ease of the way is that what it won't affect you. But this is Islam. Everything's supposed to be what is supposed to be Jama is visible. And this is the basic principle. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had information that the best religion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-Hanifiyya as-Samha, the religion that has tawheed, and the one that is do not put it. But now ourselves, there's this form of we accommodate each other. There's accommodate this stuff. We don't have to add. Because you're Sunni does not necessarily mean you have to go on tough. I don't know if I understand this. The normal thing is that when people see you as a Sunni, you are walking in the streets. And because this one is not a Sunni, how does that face? Sorry. That's what we have. But then look at the basics that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us. The person that is giving us this in our belief was a Muslim or Catholic. Muslim, I'm not calling the Catholic. So what is the basics for relating with a Catholic? The basics is what? You meet your brother with what? What do you want by it? You smile. How that is clear. The only time you have to frown is when there's a benefit in that frown. I don't think there's it. The only time you have to frown is when there's something good that will come out of it. You meet your brother in the street, someone come on, frown. Doesn't frown. It's because you are doing this. Hey, I think I want to start from. Your frowning doesn't make any sense. Your frowning has what increased is misguidance. But then you smile at someone who's more healthy now. I think but you are able to make him lead, but then you are able to not make him add to it. I don't know this. You are able to take away the misguidance from someone. You are able to take everything. But you can try as much as possible to help him not to add to it. Where do we get this? From the basis of the word to religion. In fact, some of us have mentioned this something and one we don't consider Sunni. Even amongst us that were Sunni, now doing ourselves. And As long as you don't know him, he does not come to our other side. We don't attend the same outcome. So when we meet each other, this is not constant. So from the something else now, you will find it in the way we dress, in the way we speak, in the way we deal with each other, in the way we send, the way we buy, in the way we conduct our marriages, in the way we deal with our wives, and the way we deal with our husbands. Now we have understood this. We know that what Islam wants from us is what? That's what Islam wants from us. In every single aspect. Now, where does Shaitan want to have this from? Where does Shaitan? What is Shaitan's goal? It knows that many of you that have gone to Madrasa, that have gone to Madrasa, they have learned how to read the Quran, they have learned something that is Sahiha, they have learned a whole lot of things, wake up in the midnight, break our Jews, we do so that to have. Shaitan knows that not catch you from that faith. He knows if he comes to you and tell you, I don't pray soon today, it's going to be difficult for me also. Shaitan tells you, I don't pray soon. He wants to be there. Tells you don't pray soon, he wants to be. Tells you don't read Quran, he wants to. So what will you do? I like that. It goes to the point of do one. But suddenly, Sunday morning, you have big wedding or something. You have strength. After Sunday, when it's continue praying. I know like so what comes from there? You bring it down. From the fact that what she don't wants you to continue to think you're getting close to our mom. How do you get this? So when you look at the majority of the extremes we find in the Bible, we find out that many of them come from people who want to continue to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they go out of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has. Now, what is extremism? From the lexical point of view, extremism is what in general certain terms. And it's also the same thing in Sharia, only beyond the boundaries Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Now to understand extremism and why we should not move them, we must understand another principle of the day. The first principle is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned was that our deen is based on what? On ease. The other principle is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us what is the power. And how do we know that? Allah commanded us every single day to say, "Yes, Lord, and what is al-istiqamah? What is al-istiqamah? Al-istiqamah has many meanings. Well, basically, al-istiqamah is what? Ad-dawamu ala al-khayr. Continuity on what? On goodness. Many of us start and stop. Some of us are not patient for Allah. It's because of istiqamah. Some of us find it difficult to wake up in the night. There's no istiqamah. So from the point that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to stay with our truth, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us what is the power. And istiqamah means not going towards the fruit or reform. The fruit means not going to the point of not going at all. And before means going to the point of what? Of doing more than expected. I want to do that more than expected. Promote something. If I'm overdoing what you are not asked. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to be on what is. Secondly, Allah also wants us to stay from going beyond the bounds. Allah wants us to stand from going beyond the bounds. Look at the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It says, I'm wanting you to be careful of extremism. Be careful of extremism. Be very careful. فإنما أهلك الذين من قبلكم الكفر. Verily was destroyed those that came before you. What those that came before us? The Christians and the Jews. What is right now? Extremism. Subhanallah. Allah mentioned in Surah Al-Araf. This is what was committing. فأتوا على قوم يعكفون على أصنام قالوا benefits. What did Allah say? He made them cross the sea. The sea. So happened. You know what happened? Musa, he was in a and then the sea. That is finding the key. You want to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is solution, but it's not solution. Someone makes the sea pass now. You see it with your eyes that this is not as if we were told we let it be Quran. We didn't see it. They didn't. They saw it. After crossing, you know, if you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah, I need $1 million. You are still seated here. Someone comes and says, you need $1 million, and it gives it to you. How will you do? Your yaqeen increases. So you ask Allah, no, Allah, it doesn't $1 million is not enough. I want them because this is yaqeen. Cool. So when you ask Allah for something and you see it immediately, what does it do to you? It increases you in iman. You want to ask more. You want to stay with. No, they saw it. They saw the sea. They walked. They passed. Then they looked back and saw their enemies drowning. And then they walked past some people worshiping idols. And they said to Musa, it's a manner. They for the same God. Like they have what? What's my students? How we get this? You see every single thing, and yet you point towards an extreme. Now I'll try to explain the extremism of the Jews. And they are very Nabi Musa, when you read the story, you know him. Was apart from Nabi Muhammad, the patience of Nabi Musa is in the world. What did he tell Nabi Musa? لا تقبل لك حتى نرى الله جاهرا ونرجو until we see Allah for eyes one. Another verse, we have to tell Nabi Musa, اذهب أنت وربك سبحانه فصوت يعني you and your Lord go there and fight. So that's the extremism of the ones. The Jews, one of the Christians. They claim that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a child. In another place, they also claim that it's not 3 in 1. So this is the extremism of the Jews, of the people of the book. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was warning us that be careful of extremism. Because it is this same extremism that destroyed those that came before them. How is this like? So you find out the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam continuously used to call his companions to stay in between the two extremes. In another narration, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentions to us that those who go to the extremes are not going to get a good reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What did he say? Those who go to the extremes, are destroyed. Those who go to the extremes are what? They're destroyed. How this point is clear. How are getting the need for us to stay in between the two extremes. Now, the next one we look at now is we need to look at how the background of how extremism came into the religion. We've mentioned the extremism of the Jews and the Christians. Now let's start with Muslims. How did it come? From where? We got the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, where he was sharing things that has been said by Ali radiallahu anhu. He was sharing things there. And in the first extreme, the person stood up and said, Ya Muhammad, first extreme. Allah warned us not make the calling of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, you call yourselves Ibrahim Ahmad. So he called the Prophet by his name, Ya Muhammad, first extreme. Then he said to him, be just, for verily we are not unjust. SubhanAllah. So if Like the way the Prophet answered it, says, why have? What will I do? If I'm not just, who else in the world will be just? How that is fair. Then he stood up and went and left. And then the Prophet mentioned, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Inna indeed knowledge. Verily they will come from the offspring of this man, people who would read the Quran. They will read the Quran. In fact, modern narration says that you will see their salah and you feel as if you don't come up to pray. I don't know if you understand this point. You see their salah, you see me are praying, and then you look at yourself, what am I doing? There's nothing that from tomorrow you can start praying anyhow. There's nothing you start praying as like you pray well. But the Prophet was trying to make us understand that in their extremes, you see them, they'll pray well, subhanallah. I've seen someone like that. I entered the mosque. I met him praying. I prayed. I did that well. I was my first father.
I didn't like you.
I'm serious. Why I said I know someone like that because I knew him. I knew it. If you say the same, no answer. Because you wish you were once a careful. So I didn't understand that other part. Until I entered the mosque, I believe. First time. And then the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, he will read the Quran, ولكن لا يجاوز حناجرهم. It was not put beyond the words. How do you know? The same person I was talking about, his job was collecting a job. Used to collect a job. Suddenly we didn't see him again. Suddenly we didn't see him again. What did he do? He took the lady pushing him. Exchange. Man, what was it? That's what he's saying. Okay, baby, okay, which words? It's another. So that's another what? It's cash. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He also mentioned another thing about them. He says that what? They will kill the Muslims. They will declare them kufar. But those worshiping idols, they will what? They will leave them alone. It's not another extreme. Another extreme. Someone is saying Allah Akbar. We pray the same mosque, says Subhanallah. We pray the same way. He has some few mistakes. Maybe comes to sinner, he drinks alcohol. We pronounce on him. Is it not? We kill him. I'm not just like. And then there's this one who has never vowed down to Allah in his life. In fact, someone who lies against Allah and he's what? Left him. What I'm trying to say is that the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is mentioning to us the extremism we are going to see from this video. So this is where extremism able to defeat. I'm sorry, I'm being fast. I want to rush everything because I'm watching. Now, if you want to understand extremism, we find it among some people. The first set of people are al-ibad in Jihad. Those people who worship Allah out of ignorance. Out of what? Ignorance. We find it amongst them. Now look at many of the innovations we have in the deen. Where did this stem from? Those who want to worship Allah without what? Without knowledge. And Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This was when you see that ilaha illallah, wahdahu la sharika lahu, lahul mulku wa lahul hamd wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. How many times? 10 times. You are like someone was freed 4 slaves from the children of Ismail. So you decide 4 slaves. It's small. Very small. So one of them say 4,000 pounds. No one invested. One of us was coming. We were going to months into us. When it got there, sir, he didn't come to this myself and he prayed so many prayers. So now we say that's great, Surah 17, Surah 17, Asr 17, 1 17, Shai 17. See why? I said because for the less 17 weeks, very easy. So, where did that come from? Where did it come from? From ignorance. But he must worship Allah. How will I go and follow things I want to do and not touching power? So Allah should understand. So let me send everything forward. So this is where many of it come from. And then what are general reasons for extremism? So that we can stay from it. We learn these reasons so that we can stay from it. Now I'm going to give you a very, very important point here. And I mentioned this at every lecture. But we talk about traits that are not good in Islam. We talk about things that are not good that people do. We talk about them so that you can make them a mirror with which you look at your own self. At your own what? Self. So that you can what? Rectify yourself. It is not a means for you to now sit down in your house. I'm Hamzah, I'm Omar, is an extremist. This one now is an extremist. No, that's not the point. The point is you want to look at yourself. Am I getting to the point of extremism? Am I getting to the point of extremism? And you tell yourself back. Before I continue, whenever you're in universities, whenever you're going to the universities, in universities, we are going to find a lot of ideologies. What do I say? Lots of ideologies. Where do you stay? Where do you stay, brothers and sisters? In middle parts. Where do you stay? In the middle parts. One of our universities, we had a lot of Christian brothers. We don't have an amount. I don't know how many Christian brothers. So in Nigeria, no, according to them, I don't think there's one more on my side. I'm not going to mention this. Very confident. It never occurred to my mind that everyone in Nigeria will see anything about it as especially I got able to work and I was like very many errors of this one too. This one too has errors. Yes, it is normal that someone will fall into what? Into errors. But it is not sufficient that someone will upon the sunnah without what removing away and we're communicating. If we remove all these battles from the game, you will be able to. So you find out that one of the major reasons for extremism is what identity. What I call it identity. You're young and you can read the whole softness. You can take a book, you can read words to read. You take one book, you understand it. You take another book, you understand it. Mashallah, there's no other shape in the world. That's how it feels at first instance. You grow fast in that stage. And then you get it. When you begin to read, when you get one book from you begin to read, you feel that there's no shame about it. That's how it is. Now, when you don't bring yourself back and say, come on, this is my channel. This is my just read. Some of them are very 50 times. Some of them are memorized it. They read and read and read and read. In fact, even the person that wrote the book you have read, that you have read, might have been one of the teachers of those that you have read. You don't know. Maybe one of the direct teachers. So the book that you have claimed, I've read this one, he didn't just read it, he studied it. He's studying it in front of the person that was it. So because of little knowledge and your young age and lack of experience, you can get into what? To extremes. Like I said, we don't want what to extremes. Shape will very that there are some issues that happened some few years ago. And with the current level of knowledge it possesses now, it will wish he handled today and handled it. So all of us. Personally, I should lose my hair. Not the place go for. So today I still regret the fact that I was still lose balance. I still regret that. When I was thinking carry I don't know the most so cool everything. So we're extreme with them. Two extremes. To the extent that I spoke about what I was an Now, what happens? We are able to continue to teach them the religion. How do we do? How does we teach them what they're not supposed to teach them? But imagine that as far as my life, try as much as possible to stay in with me. as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has commanded. Perhaps many of them have what some is so. So one of the major reasons that lead people to extreme achievements is what? Your young age and what? Lack of experience. Lack of experience. So how do you navigate to that? We always try as much as possible to prevent issues to be available. The next question I'm expecting you to ask is, as to start, if we are young, you guys are competing, you are young, you two are young, you are young, so there's still the propensity for all of us to fall into what? Into extremes. The truth is that we must not have teachers that will resolve teachers that when issues come up, we call them around the chair. So so. Out by hand. The second reason I was mentioned is things that will before the DPE. When someone does not understand the things. Now, look, I didn't say things as right. I didn't say things as right. You may have knowledge in money or in one point. We have knowledge. So you have memorized. Usul, you have memorized. Al-Quran, you have memorized. We have looked at this time. I'm just like, or you think there's still a good problem. I'm not just like, so there's what's failures with helping you. You think in Hawaii, you know lots of ayahs. In fact, we're using some ayahs to establish their misguidance. When the war prophets gave Ali and Muawiyah, and they were about to come to the truce, Ali sent them. The mistake Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, and Muawiyah sent Amr ibn al-As for them to judge amongst the Muslims. Salala, when it happened, what did they use? Is it to share? What did they use? Most of the Quran, but they didn't want, they didn't understand it. So Abdullah ibn Abbas, actually explained to them with another verse of the same Quran. It's the same Allah that he said here that وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ شِقَاقَ بَيْنِهِمَا فَابْعَثُوا حَكَمًا مِنْ أَهْلِهَا. If you fear that the two of them, they decide to go their separate ways, that's the husband and the wife, then bring a judge from the family of the husband and a judge from what? From the family of the wife. At least not someone is judging between ones. So if Allah has permitted it here, why now saying that any people only lie that we cannot bring humans to judge on issues that border around us? So which means you understand what? That's us. How much is good? If they have knowledge. They have knowledge about the past, but they didn't have what? I think. So there's a difference between having knowledge and having what's valuable. That's why many of the scholars will say that knowledge is not actually capable of the words. You have memorized the knowledge, you have memorized the words. Knowledge is what you understand from what words you have memorized. Another is when people go to the street is that I like that things should be one. I don't understand that. But we have someone who's not knowledgeable. But right now we're sitting on the chair of knowledge. And such a person can lead others and himself towards for extremes. The same thing happened with the power of which in Mu'tazila. The one of the Mu'tazila is extremely clear. We know the power of and we know the extremes. And then the Murji'ah. What's the extreme of the Murji'ah? The Khawarij, their belief is that anyone who commits a major sin in Islam, a major sin, zina, he drinks alcohol. The Khawarij believe such a person is not a kafir. Then the Murji'ah gave us it, no. They believe that the moment you say La ilaha illallah, you and Abu Bakr, you are the same one. What is that? Two words, two extremes. Two extremes. So Al-Hasan al-Basri, was the most prophet. And someone entered and said, that no. The Khawarij, this is their statement. And then the Murji'ah, this is their what? Their statements. We are the Sunnah. What are we supposed to say? That is not. If we get right, Imam, and then someone spoke, I'm not mistaken. I think once you have now. I mean, once you have now. And he spoke and said, Lana fi manzilatin between manzilatin. We will be in a position between the two positions. And that is where the Imam said, no, this answer is correct. So what did he do? It turns out that he left the Imam. What I want to use there was that he answered because he thought it was what? Because he thought it was what? Knowledgeable. And then he led him to another what? Another extremes. And then the Mu'tazila came with so many extremes in the religion, which I will try as much as possible to mention. Another reason is Qillat as-sabr. Having little patience. Having little patience. It also needs one towards extremes. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us to ask Allah, want something from Allah, ask it this way, ask it this way, ask it this way. We have asked in that particular way for 10 years. We must see what you want. And then we said, we are people. We are people. That's our people. Where did you come from? Qillat as-sabr. Qillat what? Sabr. You ask Allah for the car. If you ask me, say, oh, almost like what do you need? Something that's my power. That's why she knows it well. This may not be common amongst us, but it's common out there. It's common out there. I've seen someone who told me that I'm probably going to get down and pray again. It's an extreme. These things are out there. And these extremes are mentioned. They are actually the mild ones. They are the mild extremes. They are extremes that are not like this. And these are the ones that we are not what we are not. So that will not take us to what and what types of extremes we have. Majority of the scholars mentioned, I think I mentioned 3. The first one, which is the most dangerous, is the extremes against words to put it, only what is in our hands. The extremes of the Quran is where you come from? Freed. The extremes of the Mu'tazila, where you come from? Freed. Of Jahmiyyah, freed. Let's mention a little from the Quran. I've mentioned one of it, and it's that they believe that anyone who commits the major sin in Islam is what? Is a kafir. How do you get to that point? People are asked for everything myself, probably around percent. The Khawarij, what they do is that they go to verses where Allah is referring to in his believers. I don't get this. Allah is referring to what? His believers. And then they apply those verses on the ones on the Muslims. And I said, it's not Qillat as-sabr. It's what? Qillat as-sabr. They go to verses that these are verses that Allah is talking to a traffic and an institution words on the Muslims. Where did that come from, Jama'ah? From the Greek. The Mu'tazila did the king of Zen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they were sincere. Perhaps they were sincerity. Again, I said that if we establish the fact that Allah has eyes, Allah can hear, Allah can see, Allah is above, it should mean that Allah has a body. Allah is there. But it is we humans and animals that should have bodies. Allah is there. So for that fact, establishing these attributes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually demeaning Allah. I don't forget it. Allah mentioned in the Quran that he sees, he hears. He mentioned that he has eyes, he has hands. But in the Mu'tazila, out of misplaced sincerity, say that if we establish these things for Allah, it would mean we are establishing that Allah has a what? A body. Allah is clear. And it does not make sense in their own way, in their own acts, and Allah should have a body. Allah is clear. So what would this now say? We now put the concept that yes, when you see Basir in the Quran, it means that Basir will only person. The one who sees when there's no words, there's no sign. And then this is what you understand it. If you Basir will only person, you understand it. Like someone saying you are someone, there's no beauty. I don't know if someone comes to us like you are someone, there's no beauty there. Semirin Bilasan. They came from the point that they want to sanctify Allah, purify Allah, and then they went towards extremes. So this is wants in the heart. Now some mostly have that. This is wants a lot in the mouth and in some places in southwest Nigeria. When you get to schools, you see people come with different expressions of Islam, different beliefs, different creeds. What's our creed, Jama'ah? Our creed is what? Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Summarized in the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, an tu'mina billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa rusulihi wal yawmil akhir wa tu'mina bil qadari khayrihi wa sharrihi. This is our aqidah. This is our aqidah. So the next question you ask yourself is, an tu'mina billahi. How do you believe in Allah? That is that. So you read the books of scholars, Islamic scholars, and to bring with malaika. You find out that in the 6 major things, 6 things, the major places where there are problems is the first one and the last one. I don't get it. The major places where people go to the extremes is where the first one and the last one. Father and the first one are last in. From those that went to the extremes in the first one, we have what? The Mu'tazila, the Jahmiyyah, the parts of the Ash'ari, and some of them. All of them, we have the ones that the Jahmiyyah and the Qadariyyah, extremes of the arts. The Jahmiyyah, what's the option? They believe that every single thing that we are going to do, every single thing we do, we are forced to do it. We are here to be listening to this level. In their preach, Allah is the one that forced you to fear. I don't think that is clear. And what they also believe is that if you still respond, when I said Allah forced you to be there, it makes sense. You are here to do something. What of if you steal and commit sin? That's also their words. Their belief. That is why one of them said to Umar, when he spoke, and Umar was about to cross him. He said to Umar, how are you going to cross now? What is Allah that decreed that I'm the one that you are, I will see? That is what that decreed. And Umar also answered, using his own evidence. Is Allah that decreed that I will also call to her? How does it say? If you believe that it's Allah that decreed that you steal, it's also the one that decreed that what I'm going to call to her. That's an extreme. Believe that every single action that will feel. And they also did that. They also went to another one, another extremes. Another extreme. What's the other extreme? The Qadariyyah. They believe that there's no what? There's no degree. Every single action is as a result of your words, of your feeling. Like, these are extremes in the things. We don't be Shia. They also have extremes in the words in their creed. So some of them, they believe that Ali only allowed to die into. Yes, some of them believe Ali. Last prophets. That's the first. Some of them believe Ali is Allah. Not about this. Some of them believe Ali is Allah. That is why when he was burning one of them, Ali was punishing one of them and he was burning him. Even while he was being burnt, was saying Shiva said you Allah. The Prophet has mentioned before that no one punishes the punishment of Allah except Allah. So when he was being punished, he was saying that this evidence now. Now, Ali may have forgotten the hand from the other side. That's why he wants it. And this is like when the Shia also went to the extremes. Now, one of the extremes is that not so really Allah لغير أهل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. We should love members of the household of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ali, Fatima, and their children. And then we should believe to others. They declared Abu Bakr as Kafir, Umar as Kafir, and a lot of them as Kufar. And then another good thing, another extremes. That's why I said if you do anything of forgiving to us, extremes, they do points. Another good thing is they don't ask you. They don't ask you. Okay, you hate the family of Prophet Muhammad. You love the family of Muhammad. I hate the commandments. So we hate the family of Prophet Muhammad. Some of our these are another what? Extremes. So you have to be extremely careful that every single thing you do should not go outside and to be ready or relatively or possibly or possibly and the other party or to anyone who is calling you to anything other than this. The way the other Sunnah or Jama'ah believes in it, such a person is calling wants to extremes, whether of faith or a God. We really go to extremism related to actions. I'll give us ideas for blind Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's big now, but sometimes it may lead you out of the religion difference here. And this is wanting to do more than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'll give us some examples. 3 people came to meet the household of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they inquired about the way worships Allah. So they were told, because this, because this, because this, because this. Some of them said, this one, Allah has forgiven his sins. He's going to object and he has Muslims of one. Some of us are like that. So we have to do more than his will. See where extremism comes from. So one of them said, as for me, I have nothing to do with you again. I'm not going to get married. Is that extreme? And I want to say, as for me, from today, these eyes will not see school again. All I do, and then the last one said, as for me, I'll be fasting continuously. And that's it. And the Prophet Muhammad, someone who understands help them and said, I will not be so certain. In me as home, I'm the one who fears Allah the most amongst you. What that means is that there's no actual want to pray that I'm reach beyond what I want to do. I don't know if that's clear. You cannot fear Allah more than I fear it. Why? Why? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has all the types of yaqeen. He has all the types of yaqeen. And what yaqeen does is that what it increases iman. It increases iman. Look at Nabi Ibrahim. He was 22. And what did I ask him for? Salam. And then he gave on the fire. We think that same Allah will command him to do something and won't do it. You don't get it. We know what fire will do. We told inside the fire, and it was like it was cool, it was peaceful for you. We come out of the fire. We think someone will worship Allah better than you. No, now he has seen it, he has felt it. He has felt it, he has seen every single thing. So that is what Yaqeen does to one. It makes you fear Allah more. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has more Yaqeen than none of us. So he would necessarily fear Allah more than none of us. So he said to me, even though I'm the one that fears Allah more than you, I have wives. I don't just have one wife. I have wives. I sleep and I wake up to observe that truth. I fast and I what? And I make my fast. I'm not given an instrument to against them. Whoever stays away from the sunnah, whoever eats my sunnah, is not from me. Which means that these companions, with one another, they were trying to put what? Extremes in what? Action. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam brought into honor. Another example. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw one of the companions. He was standing in the sun. He was standing in the sun. Then the Prophet said, Nabi, what's wrong with our brother? Then He made an oath to Allah that he's going to fast. And he's not going to stay under the shade. And he's not going to sweat. How many things? 3 things. He will fast, he will stay under the shades, and he will start to draw the day. Because there's a part where he wrote that to see that. And then to leave the sun. But he should complete his fast. See, the heat, the mercy. The fast you are fasting, there's no extreme there. Continue that one. But the one that you say you won't see that, this one is what? Extreme. Sit. You will stand under the sun, you don't see shade, you don't stay under the shade, and that's not answer for this. How is it clear? The prophet entered the mosque one day. He saw like a rope where somebody would lean on when you get tired. But to do that, it will be with the woman. You see, for the first one, so what the rope will now rest on it. And I'm going to ask you, more about you. And the prophet saw the man who was not service, was angry, he was not happy. Pray that which you are once, which you can pray, which you can sleep. When you are tired, don't go to sleep. If it has ever happened to you before, when you get tired and you are doing all the time, at a point you begin to see what you are supposed to see. And if it has happened to you, what's the worst? So at that point, when you don't go to the extremes, so I was going to see what is wrong. You sleep. When you wake up once, you continue. We have extremism in actions. And extremism in actions are the reasons why we have many innovations outside there. Many innovations outside there stem from what extremism in what action. We want to do more. We want to do more. Automatically, how much 1,000? I'm just if someone comes to you and says that well, I simply in the morning to appreciate, it's 1,000. Say those words to your sweets. La ilaha illallah. One is sufficient. If you are sincere with it, say no, say 1,000. Some go as far as 7,777. Extremely words in action. Extremely action, we need to meet ourselves. We need to meet ourselves. What did Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam say about Muslims not meeting themselves? He says that a Muslim not making Muslim, not talking to a Muslim, it's not permissible. Unless family is 3 days. Whatever goes above 3 days is what? It's a sin. Another hadith, he says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's a particular thing forgives the sins. I think the word forgives the sins of the Ummah. And he tells the angels that these two don't make their fight which is separate until they reconcile. Which means the basic relationship that should be between two Muslims should what? Then we make extremism interactions. And this brother so I want his house. When the Prophet said another hadith that the Muslim upon another Muslim has having rights. 6. I want to realize that but if you waste person, if he calls you, okay, what he might watch, answer. But I will not change this. This is not an extreme. And I said, we do not leave the principle unless there's a want benefit there. Because which is Walima. And if I don't go to his Walima, he will be sad. If he finds out that the reason I did not come to his Walima is because of this strong thing he is doing in religion, it's going to justify it. All them have go. Allah is clear. I didn't go by disobeying the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I refused to go because there's a benefit in the religion and I want to achieve. If I decide not to go, it won't change anything. In fact, it may lead him to what? Continue in his what? Misguidance. What we activate? We activate the basis. And the basis is that he invites you, you have to what? You have to answer. Absolutely. We have extremism in this aspect. And then the last one, which is common almost in every place. It's common in the north, it's common in the southwest, it's common in the Arab world. as extremism related to name calling, giving names. Giving what? Yes. The worst thing in this one is what? This is extremely dangerous. What did the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam say about this? The one says to his brother, yeah, and one of them was because of what? The calf. Which means before we call someone a calf, must be extremely careful. In fact, it's not our duty. Like I said, the mirror is to look at what? Ourselves, not others. We only look at others. We talk about others. If there is a specific benefits for the religion. The scholars of Hadith, they didn't talk about this person that is da'if, is this, except when they saw that there was a benefit there for the religion. That's why they had to do it. The moment there is no benefit there, there's no point giving people names. How does it say? You give people names, and rightly, the name should be correct. Only when there's what? Benefit in your religion. Well, we are all what? We are Muslims. But when you get to some places, the names share to be just what? Now, because the scholars have been very hard on that level, people have shifted from what? From Kafir to what? To Mubtadi. So from Kafir to what? To Mubtadi. So, okay, we're not going to call it Kafir. We're going to call it what? Mubtadi. So, the moment we call it Mubtadi, they were going to activate many of the statements of the scholars on it. The Mubtadi will not see the change. The Mubtadi will not take the change. The Mubtadi will not attend his lectures. We don't do this, we don't do that. Before we call someone a Mubtadi, we must get me wrong. Calling someone a Mubtadi is from within. And that's like, Mubtadi is not for everyone. Honestly,
It's not for everyone.
it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. And it is not the way we are sharing this today. We need to be extremely careful what we do. Before you call someone a Mubtadi, first and foremost, you must be sure that that person is aware of that thing he is doing is wrong. I don't know if you get smart. You must be aware. Because we give people excuses because of ignorance. If you be ignorant, so you can give an excuse that this person is ignorant and wants to know. So we give an excuse for that. That's number one. Number two, there must be something we have called in form of a Christian. Scholars will have want to discuss with you, explain the evidences for you. Be sure that you understand it. See, we are very funny in this subject. Someone comes to me and says, I'm explaining this thing to you. Say, I don't agree with what. Then he goes out and says to me, what you explain for more value? He said, you know, just that he comes to me and says, I said, no, because of this ayah, because I will finish our discussion. Now, what should really come to his mind is that I didn't disagree because of my desires. I disagree because of evidences. So until you are able to prove to me that what I'm doing is wrong with the evidence, and I agree with you, you cannot even be able to get it. So he goes out and says, shall I want I just often walk by? And then he forgets to look at the thing like methodology. I'm not scared. Some of us we want to look at methodology. Look at the rest of the body. I want to go there. Others is so we needed everyone with them. It's not question. What's the meaning of this? Who can you take knowledge from? People who want to see it. Find it to money and find it. How is this then? So we have extremism in words, in actions. And lastly, my last one is one of the ways you understand extremism in actions. I need to mention this is tahrim of Taliban. Allah makes things halal for him, and he said to make it halal. When there is Allah's ways, making goods halal. You have money, you have money, I said that no, I'm not going to do it. Why? Because in looking good, that sense of deal is not there. How you call it balance? Someone is wearing nice chala, nice stuff. Simply does not feel Allah. But if it's not looking good, and you find it in the mosque, people think he fears Allah more than the one that is looking good. So you're not like that. As long as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it permissible, and you have to work with that, look good. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that Allah is fair. Allah likes that when he makes, when he does good to school, his name makes it once, sure. And then another way you know people are from the extremes is people make the ones they make it haram on themselves. And someone decides that he's not going to eat, he's not going to drink, he's not going to sleep. This is extremely inaction. I remember when I was serving in Osun State, there was a boy, he fainted in front of the school. So the boy got out to revive him. So I asked him, what's wrong with him? Maybe there was another path. When you were here, one day, the video out, was the region, why? Nice and only one. It's not one speed. It's not one speed. So I was thinking, now when you hear that, you are like, what's this? But you know what funny thing? If you read the books of the Sufi, you find things like that. He was not doing it out of just doing. I was like, one of the ways you get close to Allah is when you're hungry. You must have noticed this. If you have noticed it. And when you are fasting, you are closer to Allah. Just know. Because there's nothing. And there's nothing inside. So you are able to read more, you're able to do adhkar, you're able to get closer to Allah. So they understood this and like, so if I want to be close to Allah 100%, means that my stomach should be not empty. So that's where I went to an extreme. So making those things that Allah has made from us, you must eat, you must drink. Making it haram on yourself is another word, extreme. Then lastly, what are the solutions to stay away from extremism? And if you are falling into it, how do you get out? Just two solutions. The first one is what? Knowledge. And knowledge is not something that has advanced needs. Honestly, there's not about it. But she's Sanawi, I just started. You look at Sanawi, just what? Started. It does not have an end. I don't write the Quran, this is who I am. It's not open. And you will have seen. So knowledge is something you learn from failure to believe. Don't be like some others. The moment you finish university, there's no need to go to Harvard. There's no need to go to Harvard. This is wrong. As long as you are still breathing, you continuously need to study. I remember when I was interviewed for the position of Imam. One of the questions I was asked was that, who do you listen to? Who do you listen to? Which sheikh do you listen to? And then question, I told one of the brothers, I was like, you're four. Can't call Sharia. As my listen very well. I was like, well, let me Sharia now. You can read, who me, I read the answer to share the books. Why do you need to listen to another person? So at that point, you don't understand. But when you to now stay, you don't listen to anybody, you don't listen to yourself. You begin to notice that your imagine what is very, very easy. But no matter how knowledgeable you are, sometimes you need to listen to others. In fact, you need to listen to your accord. Those that you are of the same level, listen to them, learn insights from them. You listen to those who are both scholars, and you even take knowledge from those who are younger than you. So knowledge is one of the ways to stay away from extremism. The moment we are going out, knowledge puts us back. Knowledge is what that puts us back. This is where we are supposed to be. This is where we are supposed to be. Don't go there. Don't go there. India, Ustaz was mentioning some things when we were saying some other ideologies. You cannot stay in from these ideologies if you have no knowledge. But the knowledge is there. The moment the idea comes, the knowledge within you says that this is wrong. Now we're talking about new life, I thought that maybe I need to rest. One of my friends called me to one of their gatherings. So I went there. I sat down. So I think it was in Nigeria was coming. And we mentioned so many things, so many things. As we mentioned it, I was saying my friend, "As this is not. This thing cannot go." In fact, the more than fact, they are clears. I said, there are some Muslims here. They will think it's haram, it's not haram. I've been doing it after. But with every single thing they mentioned, I was telling my friend that this thing is not, it's wrong. This thing does not make sense. From the little knowledge I had here, I know this is haram. He said it was not. I said, no problem. Probably, I'm not interested. After 3 years, I got Victor. Victor, you don't get that. He said, no, I'm left there. Let's not speak to again. So, knowledge, no matter how small, makes you understand that there's something wrong here. There's something wrong here. When the ideas of feminists, liberalism, when they begin to come, your knowledge tells you that this is wrong, this is wrong. And then the last one is stay where the righteous predecessors stay. How is this clear? And when I say the last one, you will not go astray if you have an evidence. You won't go astray if you have what? An evidence. What's your evidence? Father asks you on the day of judgment, why did you do it? He said, Allah did it because Abu Bakr did it. And he said, Radi Allahu anhum wa radu anhum. In another place, he said that what? وَالسَّابِقُونَ الْأَوَّلُونَ مِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ وَالَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُم بِإِحْسَانٍ. And those that follow them upon goodness. رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. He said to follow Abu Bakr. Allah is clear, not spiritual. Allah is clear, the righteous predecessors. In every action, everything whatsoever, always wants to refer back to them. Anything, whether it's issue of faith, actions, how they know people. Allah is clear. Do it the same way they are doing it. Inshallah, we are able to move many words, extremes. As well as for this, every time that I've taken myself, and that's every word of this station of the journey and well, as well as part of what's going to be this is Yes, is that the first one? That's the most important we really gain a lot. I personally gain a lot of information, and I really know that we also gain from what you say. So, yes, you have questions. Let's put it in the same distance. Yes, ladies. I think we have some questions now, right? Yes. Everything.
Now, if someone says yes, money. If someone
Okay, I think the questions here are from first lecture. So when saying if someone says we were humans before we were Muslims, so we should look at things from the lens of humanity. What should we say to this?
everybody has created what upon the people. What is that people? And I think we praise you. It's that everybody is going to Muslim. And we say, yes, for us, we know. People think you said something else. I'm going to do it. So, everybody, every child knows that Allah is Mahmoud, Yerush, Allah is the creator. Just as every child knows where his food is, every fast knows where the food is. Where is the food? But that's just how you. You don't have to teach them how to solve this. Once you put them on the table, they know where they are going already. That's what that's the same way. Everybody knows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator. Because you are bringing out covenants from the lines of our father, Adam, alayhi salam. All men, all the people are Allah in blessings, and from the father of us, alayha. We are humans that understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is creator. That's our people, our tradition. So, there's nothing like humanity first before. This not school, like I said. Then you want to look at it from where is the philosophy. If you want to look at it from the aspect of humanity means goodness, kindness, before religion. Our religion is kindness. Our religion is kindness. In Allah ya'murkum bil 'adl wal ihsan. Allah commands you to work with justice and righteousness, because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, it's now Allah and the entire Nas of what we develop from Nasrani. وقال قومي أزواجا قالت تابعوا رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام. These are values that so-called humanity is coming to. And to establish the treasure of religion, kindness to others, even to animals, even to trees. Even to trees, how you use your environment. That's the goal as the agenda. Which promotes what? Cleanliness. What does humanity cause? So this should be filtered, if not harm others. So this is established in Islam. So saying humanity because I say humanity is very humanity. It doesn't make sense. So as a Muslim, you understand that as human as you have been created, Allah has given you the guidance to follow, the manual to live your life. So that's little bit. It's not not missing our religion. But if originally by humanity is that go against the principles of Islam, we answer you will reject this one, just how we reject any kind of ideology that goes against the fundamental principles and effective of Islam.
So the second person says, I'm not identifying well as a Muslim. I'm not identifying well as a Muslim. E.g., full recommended hijab because of self-confidence. So she has brackets. I want to suffice with minimalist Islam. What's the solution, sir?
The question is a bit question. To suffice minimalist Islam. That is not yes because of confidence. You say that this is what you want. This is what you want. وإنما ذلك من الشيطان يطول أولياء ولا تخافوه وخافوه. So the shaitan will bring simulations to make you doubt yourself. And so to make you question yourself. And the stress also is there. The simulations of shaitan. إنما النجوى من الشيطان ليحزن الذين آمنوا. The shaitan will give you inspirations to make you question yourself. When we say confidence, confidence of what? That you have as a Muslim, you will label you, and I can say this from myself, from experience. There was a time that I never thought I would be able to wear cap. As I wear cap now. Cap felt like a taboo. Because now I was just thinking about it, wait now, I can go outside in my house without wearing cap. Shoes are naked. if I don't wake up. I'm not saying it's alarm not to wake up. So, personally, I can't leave my house now. I can't go out. In short, those that know my house, I cannot leave my apartment to the mosque just next door without cab. I feel uneasy. But there was a time that going cab was uneasy. And I went to an Arabic school, as a young boy, SS2, SS1, but you also do legal. Or as you know, many of us, we are doing, you memorize Quran, but it's not to do on the streets. And you are forced to do two words. Salafi and Solar. You want to do Salafi, I want to do Solar at the same time. So at the time, when cap was always uncomfortable, I remember I think I should do very well. Because once I put the cap on, you know how to remove it. Instinctively, I have to move it. Because I felt that I have to make cap. People are this suicide. It looked ugly. Yes, I have to wear this suicide. So these things are sometimes they don't play on our emotions, play on our fears. Thinking that if you wear hijab, you are not adequate. Many people hide their Islam because they feel inadequate, they feel out of place. So they don't wear native clothes. Some people don't wear Uban Chokoto, because they think Uban Chokoto is for true men. Or too soon, I was still wearing Balenciaga, I'll wear Zara, because you want to appear fun. So anything otherwise from that makes you feel less of yourself. Something tough. So you have to work on yourself, work on your confidence. Know that when you lie in the Islam, when you are assuming, when you believe. And is that integrity, that's Islam. And that's esteem. That honor is for Allah and His Prophet and the believers. So what makes you honorable is your Islam. It's not whether you are removing the veil or not. So these are the things that you don't feel of to make you feel less of yourself. How can I wear that like that? Okay, let me choose my example. Where you put the last time this time, the banana general. You can come now as one style as well because we want to be for so you want to use your Islamic culture so that to fit into what to make you more, makes you feel confident that I need to search. Rather than searching, now we're using the word of searching people because you don't feel comfortable with your skin. So one of the cures to this is to study Islam first. Once you study Islam, that Islam will come automatically. Once you study Islam, that honor, that integrity will come automatically. So the thing that used to matter to you will not matter anymore. That jilbab that you don't wear anymore, now you feel uncomfortable with that jilbab. That cap that you think that is for the children, you start wearing that before you know it. It becomes strange for you not to wear now. Even the way you speak will change. You don't want to speak as someone that is not educated. For example, if you study engineering, it doesn't make sense when you start talking like what's it? Look over down there's the way they talk. If you're afar and you want to speak in public, you don't want to identify like that. That's why you see the book, you don't want to associate, identify with people that have of lesser understanding than you. You want to speak with confidence because you've been trained to be confident and you're trained to keep where to speak with integrity. So you work with and pray God a lot of work. To say a lot of work, and that makes you people. Because work looks like it's fair, it's fun, it's what, yeah. That just seems to be close or not from being or that is work. So make a lot of work, and that makes it easy for you. You have to different yes, all that makes it easy for you. That's what's simple. ولا اللهم اني اسالك الثبات العزيمه على الرشد اسالك الثبات في الامر والعزيمه على الرشد. These are the ones that you can make that Allah makes it easy for you to make it fair for something and make those things part of you.
Now, I have some questions for. So the first one here. So not really readable, but it says 27 question. So is it haram to keep your hair from being in Islam? So it's haram to keep your hair.
Many of your teachers so when you start to ask about there's no harm there, inshallah. There's no harm there. So you can keep your head as well as the negative lens. And it can also shift just as much as possible that when you are shaping it, everything is shaped for the same as what you have shaped, make it number one. You shape by shape, and then you can keep your head. What I'm expecting that the question of people is that in the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, when he was describing our age, he mentioned that one of their traits, the bigots, she their head of business. I don't get if you understand this. They shape their head of business as one of the ones traits of our age. So some of the scholars have said that. So you want to see, you see what complete so that you look like the environment. But this is just physical traits. And physical traits most times do not constitute the major thing that affects someone concerns of friend. How that is clear. You can keep your hair and you can shape it along.
So this one says, amongst the rights of the Muslim is to accept the sovereignty of the nation. What if the party is or are filled with music and things that is based on Allah? Is it a valid excuse to not attend?
Yes, it's a valid excuse not to attend. The one who attend is where there's no sin against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, now, some calls you to come to lunch. That's hard. Now, which one are you going to do? You are not to go. And there are two rights here. The first right is what? The right of Allah, not to involve with your innovation. And the other right is the right of the Muslim, that calls you to attend. So which right do you go for? The right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you need to go for such because it has that right as well against the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's the same thing as someone calling you for I don't mean on the day the person dies. And then person that you must go. But after that, 3 days, 8 days, 40 days, final payment, it is really against the rights of our house. So it becomes compared. So also any gathering and there's music, there's privacy, anything that happens on us and comes to us, and let's have to ourselves. Let's have to ourselves such a difference. Almost
So someone says, since most prophets saw your king through Allah's guidance, does it not mean it was easier for them to have taqwa as a discourse?
Now, I want to point out that the Prophet said, and he gave Iman physical. Every single one of us have seen their king. Every single one has seen it. It's just that sometimes we try to deny it, and we don't want to recognize it. How that is right. Every single one of us has seen their king. The Quran itself is there. I was talking about Muhammad bin Bashir. I was talking about the congregation of Ignorance Sunday. And I told them that when Muhammad was brought to the Prophet Muhammad, one very good thing about Muhammad was born, was the first child born to be son after the victory of the Prophet Muhammad. So we brought him to the Prophet Muhammad. And the Prophet said two things. He said, Ya'ishu al-Jidan by a Muslim sharing. This boy is going to be a praise of Allah, and then he's going to die as a shaheed. When the Prophet died, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the man was 8 years old. How many years? 8 years old. He didn't die until about 57 years after the Prophet Muhammad, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And he was, he died as what? Shaheed. He died as what? Shaheed. Died in the and the Prophet said something. And many times is what? Okay. But Quran from the beginning to the end is what? Is your instruction for us. Now, the Sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that each one of us we have had situations in our lives where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us the way on the spot. On the what? On the spot. For some of us, we face the emergency. We face the emergency. When we can, I was asking about one. She would remember one of the was in that building in front of us. The gate was black, it was a lights. So we did not have all of the lights. So the lights we had was gone on the other side. And our bike was coming like this. So the gate was black, it was a bike coming on the other side. What they got to us, she said it was like, it was really not in front behind us. It was like, we saw that. And the first thing I did was to move back. We did saw that. You don't get it? We were going. He was like, I'm going to meet him door. After this friend. That was his own thoughts. My own thoughts, when we were still, was that I don't know whether they're taking you. That's the thing, but sometimes we feel to organize it. That's what I think. Subhanallah, and then it is not the stability of the heaven. I will take about that. Allah. And a personal note, I never know what you like the one. And went for registration. I believe it's something that we go to get on the try our fans and everything. So when we go to Moscow, we are going for 3 weeks. First day we come, second week. Then we thought they will not come. But this is one. So one after school, straight. It's morning. So I got there, it's earlier, bring your file for master. I searched from beginning to end about 5 times. I didn't see my file. I'm asking them to step aside. You need 3 days back. I came to come before me because every time that admission has not been. Then I didn't have money. I was trying to say, I said, I didn't have money. I need to know. I just allowed. And then the man stood up from the seat. I don't know that. He stood up from the seat. Went to sociology. Packed some numbers of 5. They didn't tell me. And then the next one was my own. I didn't hear that. Because not taking from it was cheap because a lot of things happened like a lot of things happened was like this cheap. So this will go to class hungry. And I will come back. Oh, later. You talk with you on the go on the rest and you also just a class. So we do that. And it happens to our times. So if this is not it, what was it? So every single one of us will have had this is like you did an exam, was waiting to think, and then you get God to and you pass. It's not taking. It's not taking enough. So what we want is that all the time, Allah will show you. So we say again, yes, the prophets, they have another level, but also part of what Allah showed us again. In fact, it's sufficient enough that we were discussing with Jibreel, and it's not also. But for us, it's another level. We need to be universal, and we stick with it. And we also consider it as much as possible to be our aim. Because it will be Jesus in our own and Jesus in our own. So, because of time, I want to pick those 3 more questions. So, one from Stanley and 2 from Jay. So, he has a question, but he would like to describe the personal space. Then one from the extra. So, the question to our start says, on Islamic identity, what's the meaning of the medical professionals
who do not shake feelings must examine feelings physically, regularly out of necessity.
Doctor, one answer.
Yeah.
One of them starts the doctor. One of them. And like you said, first I will answer that question. This is out of necessity. The real question is if necessity is necessity. The not what is necessity in conventional, let's say, military work is enough or suffices that necessity to the work. So what is what the rule of Ajam? So Ajam, people need to place it as the rule of something that cannot escape. So the situation, the basis is that the woman or a man should not touch a woman. That's the basis. And the woman should not touch a man or should not touch a man, whether with the intention of Lazar or not. Because when you tell you, to me, it's not, Lazar is not invented, it can touch you. That is whether with his shower, with desire or not. Touching very minimum. With or without desire. So if that is the case, if there is a situation where there is no other way, for example, somebody is sick and there is no treatment for them except by the other gender, and we must attend to that sickness. Otherwise, it causes more harm. That will be too much to bear. That doesn't mean the difficulty that is above normal. If there's the difficulty that can be understood normally, it's not necessary. If not doing that thing will cause more difficulty that is above what is normal, then I will allow to people and out of the world. So such necessity will permit us because of everything. Nobody feel that and he was a specific person. And the only person is a woman. And he come walk. Person will die. We can do that. So it's the cost of the person. So you want the other person. So situations depends on the matter and situation, not the target. So whenever we force more harm to that person, there is a above what is normal. Sharia permits that policy. It also makes Islam different. Of around 6 hours. But the issue of someone that denying the blood transmission. What the adultery? That is not Islam. That is not Islam. It's not haram. Even Islam that is haram, or to save a life, we will do it. To the extent of the need. To the extent of what? Of the need, not go beyond the final problem. They will not want to examine you, or you want to go and do a test, or a scan, and you have to touch, you should not touch anyone seriously. Or you should not touch the person more than once. That thing from this, if there is no other means. But as for a Muslim, we strive as much as we can about and males also. And males. My loved one was narrating a story to me. One of our colleagues, Muslim, bloody Muslim, the doctor, he's always looking for female cases. He's always looking for female cases. I gave female cases, one thing. You know, as a don't hide behind, you know ourselves. So don't hide behind this guy and the doctor now. You can avoid what I can avoid. So if there is no other means, then you have to go as a real life. Let's say I'm a doctor, and then you don't try to avoid such situations. So we have cases where we have to examine, if the woman has to examine, because I GOPD, I have to see everybody, both male and female. So the male will come and say they have to their private part. The male, and you're going to GOPD, you have to examine. As a female, execute yourself. Even as a patient, you can seek for a male patient. It's all right. I want a male patient. So don't power to people really, you know. See, I want to see a male patient, I don't see. I feel doctor. I want to exclude the hour. No, I want a male patient. When will the male patient do it? It's called our protocol. Only when doing that, they lead to more, you know, of course, there's simply. Otherwise, you find what happened on his drive as I talked about.
So, we last question today. So how does one relate to people that outwardly appear as silly when they have extremism of pristine? And that's one. The other one says, how does one cope with one institution? How does one cope when one institution is primarily populated by a Muslim student community inclined towards innovation?
Ali ibn Abi Talib radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu, was asked about Khawarij. How is them? He answered and said, they are our brothers. Only once crossed the lines against us. That's why we fought them. Was Ali fought them when we established the fact that they are our brothers. So whatever rights is due for our brothers, it doesn't want due for them. How does this plan? How does two Muslims? We find a way to rectify them. We cannot rectify them. The rights that is due to them, or one must use them from the state and whatever it is. How does this plan? Was wrong decided to take away these rights from them, when we are fighting the extremism is not extremism. How does this plan? We will support fighting. They are what? Our brothers. They are the ones who have done wrong to us. We are not going to recognize their response. It's wrong. How does this plan?
Muslim boarding school.
Inclined to innovation. MSS.
We go to the basic principle, like how we go, public activities, yes, and our needs. And then we also use another principle systems that are our move, and then we read from top one, but then our automatically and then fascists, supports, once we start one. What is the ways to play start one, practice communications, how is this plan? Like the Khawarij, we also are what? Our brothers. Except when the innovations lead outside of the game. We don't ask them the innovations, in fact, we call out those innovations. We call out those innovations. We speak against it, we are harsh against those innovations. But there's a different way in which we treat individuals. And this is the principle must learn. So the principle must learn is that every single innovation must be spoken out against. Every single innovation. This is wrong. This one is wrong. In fact, we must not partake in this. It is not from being a good Muslim. It's not from being in the middle to partake in any form of innovation. We must not partake in anything. We must stay away from it. But it is not the same way we deal with an innovation. We deal with all innovators. It is not the same way we deal with an innovation. We deal with what? With all innovators. There are some innovators that are going to be action for, but going to stand with, speak against them, and there are some that are going to pretend to we give them good advice. In fact, sometimes we are going to tell them, I'm fasting on Thursday, come and break my apartment, come and break my hostel. There are some of them that will be nice with it. There are some of them that will be very stern against. So this goes back to the start. What are those who speak against? Those whose continuous involvement in innovation and continuously lead the Muslims to fall into that situation, and not calling that person out. We make Muslims fall into that situation. So such a person must not fall out. Speak against them. What's one is to start out now? Does not even know that what he or she is innovation. Such a person you are nice to the person, or explain to the person, and you deal with the person with goodness. And generally, in such institutions, use the principle of what? An amru in ma'ruf. One that which is good and forget that which is wrong. And then don't forget on the hour and I'm going to assist and get yourself involved in that which leads to fear of Allah and that which is righteousness. And then you not assist in that which leads to sin against Allah. So please also kind of the second session.
Now, so we just want to make this announcement for tomorrow's program. So we are going to be starting tomorrow by 9 a.m. Okay. Yes, 9 a.m. Because we want to take question and answer section. We have to take the so by the week from that section tomorrow. It's less here for the females. Let's be here by 9 a.m. The females are going to meet ready. And the males are going to be matrix of number 9 to 10, Salaman to another street. It's at junction between Salaman to another street and or if you move up, okay. Okay, we are taking them there. Okay, no problem. So we are going to the males taken to the venue for tomorrow. And that's because we are going to have separate, the topics are different. One that is going to be treated by the lecturer is specific to females, while the other one is specific to the males. So we have a doctor, a lawyer coming, and a doctor and a radiographer coming to the females tomorrow. So the females should come here, while the males come to the venue. Inshallah, we are going to.
Everyone should come here.
Okay, everyone should come here. Okay. So let's all be here tomorrow before 9, because we are going to start by 9. So let's be here before 9. Then we convey the mail so that we don't miss our guys. So we convey the mail to the venue, and then the females will use here tomorrow. So then there will be question and answer session in the morning before we start the lecture. And the last thing I want to mention before we give the mic to Hamzah to medical speech and closing speech. We realized that we requested that some of us should make comments on the food and also on the program. The reason is because this is just the beginning. Inshallah, this is just the beginning. We are going to hold more sessions, symposium, seminar, workshop, inshallah, as for next year. More of this. But if you don't give us your comments, your suggestions, we will not be able to add that to our improvement. Please, if you want to improve the program, inshallah, by next year, I know we'll be using a bigger place and we'll have a bigger or larger number than this. But how do we go to that extent? It's by your own comments and your suggestions. The site has been displayed on the screen. Please, let's go to the site. The comments, especially if you have anything with the food, comment on the food, the programs, and every other thing we have. You can state there. We are going to take it into consideration. Does that mean
So let's start up the chairs so that we can